Chapter 3. Emotional Reasoning. Human beings like to think of themselves as rational creatures. We imagine that our beliefs are built carefully, like structures of logic rising brick by brick from evidence, but beneath that tidy picture lies a more complicated truth. Before the mind reasons, it feels. Emotions are not a minor feature of human thinking. They are one of its central engines. Fear, anger, pride, loyalty, embarrassment, hope. These forces move through the brain long before careful reasoning begins. They color the way we interpret information, shape what we pay attention to, and influence the conclusions we reach. One of the most common psychological patterns that emerges from this process is called emotional reasoning. Emotional reasoning occurs when people treat their emotional reactions as evidence of truth. Instead of asking, "What do the facts show?" the mind quietly asks a different question. What does this situation feel like? If something feels threatening, we assume it probably is. If something feels unfair, we assume injustice has occurred. If something feels convincing, we assume it must be correct. In daily life, these shortcuts often operate unnoticed, yet they influence decisions in relationships, workplaces, politics, and public discourse. The danger is not that emotions exist. Emotions are essential signals that guide human survival and connection. The danger arises when emotions quietly replace investigation. Consider a father named Michael. One afternoon, Michael receives a message from his teenage daughter's school asking parents to attend an informational meeting about a new education policy. The message includes a few brief details but leaves many questions unanswered. Later that evening, Michael scrolls through social media and sees a post from another parent claiming the policy will damage children's futures and strip parents of control. The post is written in urgent language, filled with strong warnings and dramatic predictions. Michael feels a sudden surge of concern. His heart rate rises slightly. His mind imagines scenarios where his daughter might be negatively affected. The emotion arrives first: fear. Without realizing it, Michael's brain begins interpreting information through that emotional lens. When he reads supportive explanations of the policy, they seem vague and unconvincing. When he encounters criticism, it feels immediately persuasive. Within a short time, he becomes convinced that the policy is dangerous. By the time he attends the meeting, Michael is already angry. Throughout the presentation, he listens selectively. Neutral statements feel suspicious. Clarifications sound like excuses. His emotional state quietly guides which information feels trustworthy and which does not. After the meeting, he leaves believing the policy is deeply harmful, even though much of the information presented contradicted the fears he initially absorbed online. Michael did not intentionally ignore the facts, but his emotional response shaped the way those facts were processed. Neuroscience offers an important clue as to why this happens. The brain systems responsible for emotional responses evolved long before the systems responsible for complex reasoning. In many situations, emotional signals move faster than conscious analysis. When a potential threat appears, the brain's priority is speed. For our ancestors, hesitation in the face of danger could mean death. As a result, emotional alarm systems developed to respond quickly, sometimes before the rational mind had time to evaluate the situation. In the modern world, however, these ancient systems respond not only to physical threats, but also to social and informational ones. A controversial headline, a heated political argument, or a provocative social media post can trigger emotional reactions similar to those once reserved for survival situations. Once the emotional system activates, reasoning often becomes secondary. This is why arguments rarely change minds when emotions are already running high. When people feel attacked, frightened, or insulted, their primary goal shifts from understanding the issue to defending themselves or their group. If emotional reasoning is so deeply built into human psychology, how can individuals guard against its distortions? A practical commandment might be expressed this way: pause when emotion is strongest. Strong emotional reactions are often signals that the mind is about to simplify reality too quickly. Instead of immediately concluding, a pause creates space for reflection. This pause can take many forms: waiting before sharing or responding to emotionally charged information, asking additional questions before forming a firm opinion, separating the emotional reaction from the factual claim being made. These small habits can dramatically improve judgment. Imagine a culture where people treated emotional intensity as a cue for deeper thinking rather than immediate certainty. Social media arguments might slow down, public conversations could become less reactive, disagreements might remain passionate but grow more thoughtful. Emotions would still matter, they always will. They give life meaning, urgency, and connection, but they would no longer quietly take the place of evidence. In a world overflowing with fast reactions and instant conclusions, the simple act of pausing may be one of the most powerful forms of intelligence we possess. Because the goal of better thinking is not to eliminate emotion, it is to prevent emotion from quietly rewriting reality.